Hi, everybody. Jim Harold here with Dar Harold, and hope you're having a good day. Honestly, we really don't know if anybody's watching because this was totally impromptu,
Off the cuff.
off the cuff. I
We're
don't
doing it
even,
live. I don't know why.
yeah, no,
That's my thing.
yeah. Well, the thing is that I don't think anybody is watching, but hopefully some people will be watching soon. And we're basically just here to give you our thoughts on this UAP hearing that happened today, and I think most of you are aware. And if you're not aware, in the House of Representatives, there was a hearing today. What was it, about 2.5 hours, Dar?
Yeah, it was long.
Well, I don't think it was long enough, but
Really?
the
Okay,
point,
well, we'll
no,
talk
I
about it.
mean, I think it could have been parsed out a little more, but I think that, this is something there should be multiple days of hearings on, is my personal belief. But there was this hearing. It was about 2.5 hours long, and certainly I thought it was interesting. I have some impressions about it, but we were talking, and I think it's great to have Dar here because I think it's good to get the viewpoint of somebody more from the general public. Certainly, you've heard me at the House talk about the UFO subject over the years.
Right.
You've even listened to some of my shows,
I have.
but you're not. I wouldn't say that you're one of these people that are obsessed with it and know all the names and things. And I'm not pointing that out as a weakness, but as a strength, because as someone who kind of comes from the outside, how did you see this today?
Well, I mean, exactly. I don't usually follow any of this. In fact, this is my first time watching a congressional hearing on UAPs. I don't know a lot of what's going on. So this was very interesting to see this from my perspective. I don't know a lot of the background of things, but it was very interesting, but just kind of what I thought, because I went in with some preconceived notions, which was uh, I'm not going to find out really anything earth shattering. And that was exactly the case.
And I have somebody saying I've got some
You got a couple
intermittent,
people saying
some
feedback.
fuzz. Well, that is kind of weird. I'll have
I
to,
don't hear it on my
yeah,
end.
yeah, that's
Is it
kind of
on me?
odd.
It's not
See, the
mine.
powers that be are all ready.
Ooh, well,
They're
now we're on the
already,
list too, aren't we,
yeah.
Jim?
Was it, if you say the famous two words, immaculate constellation, is
We're on a
then you're
list.
on the list? Well, I was on the list before because I mentioned it about a month and a half ago when it
Well,
first came out.
yeah, and we talked about it on the paranormal report. That was one of our stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Um, Hopefully over time this audio issue will straighten itself out. Let me know if it doesn't. I mean, I think we have everything set properly. I'll just take a quick look. Just double checking everything looks the way it's supposed to here. I'll leave my suppression. Maybe that'll do something. So let us know if it's not fixed. So anyway, so your impressions were, what would you say your bottom
well,
line was?
not that I was expecting to get all this massive information, right? Because I know they're withholding, right? I mean, anyone with, I don't know, half sense would understand that they're withholding information from us. They have to be.
Mhm.
So I wasn't expecting like them to come out and tell us, "Oh, yes, we have definitive proof, and this is it." Um, I wasn't expecting that. I guess what they wanted to show was progress, that they're making progress towards investigating it and towards mainly, I think the whole theme was transparency. Transparency. That's what I got from it. Mike is worse.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Uh, yeah, they're working towards transparency, but I would say I think a lot of people were looking for, like, I'll use a football analogy. People were looking for like the 80-yard bomb. You wanted the touchdown. You wanted the thing that would make all the headlines. And honestly, I think what you got was maybe a first down. And
Okay.
I have no idea what that issue is with the mic, none whatsoever. We've got our normal setup here. I don't have any problems I'm aware of. I have no idea what that is. So sorry about that if there
Yeah,
is
I
an
wonder what it
issue.
is because I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
know.
it
Maybe it's
doesn't
something with
sound.
Restream. Maybe
Oh,
it's
it
something
could
with
be.
Restream. So anyway, I'm going to keep talking and hopefully it's audible. So To me,
leave
some of
room
the
and come
stuff
back.
is,
No.
some of the stuff was very shocking in the sense that if you were kind of insulated, Kelly Chase said this on News Nation. She's, of course, the great UFO expert, has her UFO podcast and so forth. She's been on the shows. But if you didn't know about this stuff is shocking. If you are ensconced in UFO Twitter and UFO X and those kind of things, then it wasn't so shocking. It wasn't so shocking. These are pretty much things that we've heard all along. But I mean, the quote of the day was from Representative Moskowitz.
Okay.
And he actually restated this on his Twitter. He was talking to Elizondo, and Elizondo was saying he had signed these documents that he could not give certain information and so forth. And Moskowitz said, if none of this UAP stuff exists, if it is all false, why at every turn are people trying to stop transparency? You can't talk about Fight Club if there's no Fight Club.
Yeah, I loved that one.
And
that
was it
great.
Mace that said, it was so funny because I used exactly the same phrase in an interview I did yesterday that'll be out next week, but I talked about a there being there. You know, if there's no there, what's all the hullabaloo? What's all the obstructionism?
Well, that's kind of what I want to know. If there's nothing there, right? There's nothing to any of this. Release more information. Now, I realize I'm not stupid. I realize that we do have national security issues. We need to watch how much information is getting out. We don't want them in the wrong hands of our enemies. However, I don't know. There's got to be something to this because they're working too hard to not divulge information.
Justin said Admiral Gallaudet admitting that Arrow tried to use him as a misinformation agent was eye-opening.
Oh, I loved his testimony. He was my favorite, actually.
Yeah.
Out of today.
And when Moskowitz said, and I had some notes on this, when he said basically, I mean, get this, and everybody saw it, I think pretty much everybody, he said, some didn't want the hearings. Some representatives were told not to ask certain questions on certain topics. Now, it's a paraphrase, but that's the idea.
Chairwoman Mace said that right at the beginning as well, that they did not want that hearing to take place, and people were actively working against it.
Mace also said the Arrow budgets are, for the most part, secret. They're not disclosed.
They're not,
right?
Yeah, they're not public information, so we have no idea what they're spending, how they're spending it. Again, back to transparency.
Yeah.
Why can't you tell us what you're spending it on? If you don't want to tell us what it is, just tell us where the money's going. It's our money.
And then that 12-point document entered into the congressional record about the name we can't say, Immaculate Constellation, and Mace making such a big deal and kind of having fun with it, but not really.
Not really.
Saying, this is a thing that's going to get you on a list, but our government says it doesn't exist.
Right. So where's there's the dichotomy in that.
I mean,
one.
I think somebody said this. I think it was the last gentleman, the last Ogles. Yeah.
I wrote his quote down, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, he said something to the effect, we all know something's going on or something like that.
Right.
We do. Come on. I mean, and it's not just, they keep wanting to push it off to atmospheric conditions. Gallaudet was saying some of this, and I don't know if it's Gallaudet or I'm not sure of the pronunciation because I hear different people pronounced it differently throughout the.
I actually tried to look it up before we came.
Yeah, I looked it up the other day when his name came up.
I mean,
so
his name
I think
is
it's
spelled
Gallaudet.
like the university, and like after Gallaudet is how it is usually pronounced, but I don't know.
So my point is that I think I lost my point, but the point is it's obvious something's going on. It's obvious not just natural phenomena. It's obvious it's not just military experimentation, not just hoaxes, not just mistaken people. Yeah, all of that is true probably in some cases. But was it the Galileo project that found that there are 500,000 unidentified objects out there? Come on, something's going on.
Well,
I mean, to me, it just, and the fact that they talked about the reverse engineering, and Elizondo kind of said, well, I can't talk about that, and then said it was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, all
Well-
I've got to say, I literally said this on a podcast I recorded yesterday and have not yet released. I have this in my hand, right? The iPhone 16. Okay. Pro Max. Hey. But anyway.
Not Pro Max.
the point is, when I was growing up in the 1970s, yes, I'm old, we had a Western Digital dial telephone. How do we get from somebody in 1978 having that as their telephone to having this science fiction communicator? Yes, scientist needs to be credited. But in my view, I believe post World War II, there has been a reverse engineering project going on where different technologies get seeded to different labs. Like back in the day, it might have been Bell Labs or whoever. And all of this is saying, and I believe it was Philip Corso who said the same thing years ago, decades ago. So all the years people say, oh, Jim, you're crazy, you're crazy. And today they basically said the same thing. Now, I don't know when they reverse engineered this technology, what did they use it for? But I bet you some of it was seeded to private enterprise, and the name of Lockheed came up certainly. But anyway, I'm off on a tear. You give me some of your thoughts.
No, it definitely, Lockheed they weren't allowed to divulge information if private corporations were involved in investigating or creating or whatnot, right? So they weren't allowed to divulge that information at all. The thing that I liked the most, because this is a matter of national security, Dr. Gallaudet said, we're putting our pilots, not only military, but commercial pilots at risk, safety risk, right? This is what he testified. He said this. And then Representative Ogles from Tennessee, said, we have a right to know if the things that are out there, right, if they're ours, if they're someone else's, or if they're otherworldly, right? And we do have a right to know that because, okay, maybe they're not otherworldly. All right, I'll play. If they're not otherworldly and they're someone else's, i.e. China, Russia, one of our enemies, don't we as the United States, as citizens, don't we need to know that? Don't we need to know we might be at danger? Are we at an elevated risk of something, catastrophic happening if this gets in the wrong hands?
Kind of like a Pearl Harbor, like a 911,
right? I mean, do they already own the info? I mean, we have no transparency. That's basically the whole.
Well, Representative Grothman said a few things that I thought were notable. One was, and this kind of is in the category of we were hoping for something else, but he said that they haven't been able to confirm Grush's claims from last year in skiffs. So that's unfortunate. Well, but he's just saying they haven't been able to confirm it.
But why haven't they been able to confirm
because
it?
Other people didn't come forward? I mean, if anything, that kind of plays against Grush. You would think
that's
if there was something
saying.
to
That's
it.
what I'm upset about because, again, it always feels like it's a discrediting campaign. Like how?
But I don't feel that was on his part. I think he was just stating a fact.
No, he's stating the fact. I'm not talking about him in general. I'm saying they're not able to corroborate Grush's story because they don't want to. Do you see what I'm saying? They want to kind of discredit him.
Well, yeah, I think that's true, but I think the hope would be you would find, but
that wonderful, what's it called? The Arrow?
Well, Arrow, yeah, that now today convinced me more than ever. This is just Project Whitewash. It's that's just right. AARO as a sham, in my view. Everything today because I kind of thought, well, it seems like it's a scam and a sham, and now I'm like, yeah, it's a sham. So I guess in a way it kind of even moved my thinking even a little bit. I was willing to give them a little bit of a chance, but over time it's become more and more more and more obvious. It's just a front. Also, Grothman, representative from Wisconsin, said they still have that concern about that huge drone sighting incident over Langley Air Force Base last December. And we talked about it on the Paranormal Report, which you all can find wherever you listen to fine podcasts, the Paranormal Report with Jim and Dar Harold.
He quoted, "I don't have trust."
I wrote down the same thing. I don't have trust. Yeah.
I don't have trust.
He doesn't trust. And he's a congressman. I mean, they repeatedly... He's got
more information than we do, right?
They repeatedly said, we're not getting the information we want. We're being stonewalled. We're being misdirected. What chance does the average person have? The answer is we
0.
don't.
We don't.
We don't.
No.
So, I mean, I've got to say the gentleman Michael Gold from NASA, I was not impressed with his testimony. I didn't really think it added much. I'll just be honest. I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't write too much about what he said. I
thought it was kind of platitudes.
Said, we don't want to be on the wrong side.
And NASA
it was a lot
would
of
be
cliches.
Yeah, I mean, I could have done as well.
He did, but he did say, NASA has a ton of archives that can be easily, brought forward. If we want to do true scientific investigation, you can, they're
not going to do
the
it.
archives.
They're not going to do it. No,
I don't
think there's a chance. I don't think there's a chance. Schnellenberger was very interesting. I admire his journalistic integrity, not divulging his sources. And when the one representative, I can't remember his name, because the way they had the nameplates, you couldn't tell.
Oh, it was so hard to see.
Yeah, it was like, it'd be like Dar Harold, and it's like 3 feet down the table. So,
but we have to commend News Nation, Jim.
Yeah, more because so than anybody.
During the hearings, I flipped through CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. Zero. Not even mentioning. It was all about the Trump-Biden transfer of power
that's the thing.
Meeting. And
let me ask you. There's 2 months before the inauguration, right? Just now, whether you are disappointed or you're happy, that has nothing to do with this. Why couldn't have they had that meeting yesterday? Why couldn't they had that meeting tomorrow or next week or 2 weeks from now? They just happen to have it today.
Hours from now.
Think about it. You have the news cycle, right? Certain stories are going to take priority. What's going to bring up more interest in the news? It's going to be Trump and Biden, the hard-fought campaign, the meeting. The adversaries meet, So we schedule it on the same day, virtually the same time as the UFO hearing. What a great way to suck the oxygen out of the news cycle. I mean, I hate to be conspiratorial, but I'll be conspiratorial.
Well, did I not say to you, I was convinced they had the little graphic on the side. I was convinced they were going to break in.
They did cut away.
I thought cut away on News Nation. They did.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they did. They showed 90% of it. We flipped over to, I think, space.com or something on YouTube and watched the last few minutes. Then they came back. But the thing is that, I don't know. And I know definitely last year, there was no huge major news going on at the same time, and CNN and the others didn't cover it. I didn't check MSNBC, but I'm quite confident.
I wonder if they'll mention it at all. If this will come up
very minimal, and they'll be like
with
an arched eyebrow, and like today those crazies in Congress we're talking about. I mean, they won't say that, but that's the implication. They're not going to give it its just due. I still though think it's like my analogy of football. The ball was advanced. It was a first down. But anybody that follows football, if you're on the 20-yard line and you get a first down to the 30-yard line, that doesn't mean you're going to score a touchdown, because the defense is still there and they can still stop you. And that's the anti-disclosure force. No. And I mean, Ryan brings up, and by the way, the great Ryan Sprague is watching. I'm very honored. Hey, Ryan. Glad they brought up an article recently published by Chris Sharp. UAP is being hidden within 17 governmental agencies and private companies. If this is true, Congress can now investigate them all. I agree. Another thing I will say, and
they
again,
will they though?
Doubtful.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think there are a few good people, and we saw some of them today, our representatives. And I loved what Garcia said, Representative Garcia, that it's so important to make this bipartisan in a time and age where so little is bipartisan.
Yes.
This is not only across parties, it's across countries. This impacts the whole world. So I really applaud those representatives. Very interesting, Ian. No mention of it on BBC News here in the UK.
See?
Not surprised. Surprised.
Yeah.
But Ian brings up a point, and I'm not going to get political, but he asks, do you think the new president government will help or hinder this when it takes office in January? Couple things. Trump was asked about UFOs on Rogan, and he kind of talked around a little bit and said a little bit, but I'm still not convinced that he's going to do any more than anybody else. I'm not, because he was president before. If he wanted to release the records,
could have done
and
it
it's
then.
not an anti-Trump thing or anything. I told you this. I said, if Trump wanted to release those records or the JFK assassination records, guess what? They would be released. Although, now this is interesting. Marco Rubio is the nominee for Secretary of State. Now, State wouldn't have a lot to do with this, but I wonder if he will exert any influence, because he's certainly been on the side of disclosure. So,
well, who's the nominee for Secretary of Defense? Isn't he a Fox News
Pete
former?
Hegseth, which I have no idea of his view on.
But no, I'm just kind of curious, since he was in the news and in the media, but Fox doesn't report this. So I don't know, like, will we get anything extra?
If he was buddies with Clayton, maybe we'll find something out, because Clayton was always for UFO disclosure, but I kind of doubtful. Marco says, nothing burger, waste of time. A true whistleblower has proof. I read his book, but I'll tell you, I'm still, the jury is still out to me on Elizondo. 1 minute I'm like, yeah, this is but then did you see this article where he like retweeted or something a picture of a light fixture that was that, and I'm like, dude, you are like going to be in front of Congress. If you start retweeting stuff, make sure you know what you're retweeting and elevating, even if it's not necessarily his fault, but I don't know. But again, on 1 minute, I'm like, yeah, this guy's the real deal. Next minute, I'm like, I don't know. Ryan says, I think that's a good point. They passed the ball to someone and they headed for the parking lot instead of the end zone.
There you go.
No, but I really think Gallaudet, I thought his remarks were very interesting. I think Schnellenberger was very interesting. Elizondo was interesting. Pretty much if you read his book, you heard most of this, but it's a different thing. I think Mace said something like, this is where it gets real, when they had to be under oath. It's different putting in a book and putting it under oath.
Yeah, you said he looked nervous, or
I wasn't the only one.
I said
multiple people said that.
Well, imagine, like you just said, he wrote a book about it, but that's one thing. To sit in front of Congress and actually testify under oath, that's another thing. So
I tend to believe him, but I'm not 100% sold.
I don't know.
Marco said there are more pressing things than UFO disclosure, like economy problems. Yes and no, in my view, but go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, to an extent, you are correct. Yep. Economy is a huge issue right now, but so is national security, right? So does this pose any threats to us in terms of our security, in terms of our safety? Because if we're not safe, the economy really doesn't matter.
Well,
we're going to be
you know
gone.
what? I can see what Marco's saying, though, because if you don't have a meal, you're really not worried about if there's space aliens.
That's true.
On the other hand, if the aliens land and take us over, it doesn't matter how your 401k is doing. So it can go.
No.
Ryan says, have to head up. I hope people can mind that another hearing will take place in the Senate within the next couple of weeks. So more to come. Take care, Jim and Dar. Thank you, Ryan, for showing up. Thank you for the moral support. And also, I believe Ryan is doing a live stream later. So check that out, and check out all of his podcasts. Somewhere in the Skies, Ryan Sprague. Ooh. Thanks for joining us. We're honored. So, this is Marcus says, I do not feel threatened by a spaceship. I do about $7 bread.
Bread is like $7. Isn't that disgusting?
Where did we go? We went to Panera the other day for your birthday lunch.
Yesterday.
And I'm like, I got it.
You know how much we spent? I had a half a salad.
I'm not just calling out Panera, but geez.
No, everything.
Inflation.
But bread, well, this is the discussion I had. I know we're getting off of on a tangent, but if you want to eat anywhere somewhat healthy, it's cost prohibitive.
Forget about it.
Because you can get I don't even know what the popular white bread is now. used to be Millbrook. They don't have that. But like if you want to
Wonder.
Wonder bread, if you want to eat Dave's bread, that has
Yeah, it
good
costs
grain,
what,
that's
double?
$7 a loaf over
Yeah,
here.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's
So
good point, Marco. So, Ryan talked about that Senate hearing, and the question is, where do we go from here? Do you think, Dar, that we have achieved any progress today? Has there been any progress made?
no. No, because this is all wonderful, and yes, the House of Rep has power and Senate has some power, but I still don't think they have as much power as departments that can withhold information. Defense Department, it's one agency versus one branch of government versus another. I don't think we're going to find anything out. I think they just like to I think they say, okay, go ahead and have this. And you could kind of, pat
It's
us
like a
on the
release.
head.
It's like a release
Yay, we're
valve.
giving you you're getting a little taste. There you go. Goodbye. Go
Well,
away. I don't
I
know.
will say this. I think it's a little bit of progress because, again, anytime you get something read into the congressional record, that is progress. I
But if no
think,
one reports on it, who cares? Nobody
well,
pays
that's
attention.
true. That's
And they're
true.
not
But I
changing
mean,
the minds of the
as we
general
saw recently,
population, right?
well, as we
We're
saw
still
recently,
crazies that might think that there's something out there.
I think that, at a very, very small level, people like us who are out there talking about this. I mean, we don't have the big reach of the huge media, but we saw in the last presidential election, the pundits say that the important thing for the victors was to reach people via the internet. So I think legacy media's importance is decreasing, but it would still be nice for the legacy media to disclose this. Just let's do a little experiment. I'm going to go to CNN.com just right now.
Okay.
And I'm going to see.
I don't know. I would just.
I
I'm
should
not.
have.
You know me where I come from. So a lot of people don't know. Like Jim, you're really into this, and you study it, and you know the players, and you know what's going on. I have no idea. I just kind of have come in, and I know bits and pieces of things. I mean, to say that there's absolutely nothing out there, that I don't believe. Is there absolutely, I can't believe that either. I don't know. And somebody I think mentioned too, we're not having proof of anything really. But I mean, to say that there are weird things that have happened that they can't explain. Yeah, I think we can agree on that. I mean, Dr. Gallaudet was talking about that one email that was completely erased that was wasn't it about
from his system and other systems
yes,
about that.
wasn't it, maybe I didn't understand it right. Wasn't it, there was supposed to be an exercise, right? And it got canceled.
It was about the flight conditions, and they saw something that I think it was an orb, I believe. I lost track at that point.
Didn't it travel right through the flight pattern of like a few of our military?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and then it all
By the
became
way,
hush-hush.
I just scrolled through a major portion of CNN.com. No
Nothing.
mention.
Not
So
a mention.
let's try MSNBC.
Try MSNBC.
So
I
we're
love
looking at
that because,
MSNBC.
I try to scour as many websites as I can for the Paranormal Report to find stories. And I'll go through CNN and I'll go through Fox and News Nation and MSNBC. And I've yet to find one story on MSNBC about anything that's unusual or out of the ordinary. Not just like UFO things, even like my creepy doll fascination. No, I can't find anything on there usually. News of the weird.
I'm scrolling down quite a bit here. I didn't see anything, not even mentioned. Keep in mind, this was a hearing that happened today.
In a branch of our government.
And I will say, in fairness, it is a very busy part of the. But I mean, there's some. For example,
it's news.
Here,
Can
listen,
it be
must read.
mentioned?
Louisa planned to post 10 commandments in classrooms. If that deserves this kind of hearing, I think that this
mention.
Okay. Well, let's try Fox.
I don't think you'll find anything either.
I don't think you will either.
But see, and then okay, so am I going to
pontificate
how this goes to my other argument about how the news isn't really the news? They're just biased and tell you what they want you to know or how they want you to know it. And they put in their own little, how I would give to have a news station that just reports facts. Would it be boring? Maybe it might be.
Bore
I don't
me a little
know.
bit.
Bore me. I just want the facts. Let me, how dare you assume that we don't have the intelligence to put our own context or our own knowledge or information onto it, right? I think I could figure out,
So
where I
now
fall.
people might say I picked on MSNBC, so let me pick on Fox a little bit here. Okay. Scroll down maybe a third of the way, maybe halfway on foxnews.com on mobile. Missing realtor told banker to look for her in the lake if she disappeared. Now, certainly I feel sorry for this lady who, I guess, I don't know if she's missing or she got killed. But certainly since it was a hearing, Trump considering outgoing congressman for key cabinet position. And it's a guy I've never even seen. So, I mean, the point is,
So
from
no
value
mention
meals
again.
to cold brews, hottest food trends of 2025 unveiled.
That's important.
But
Now,
we had Congress people basically saying that there's been a reverse engineering project going on for decades, well, they didn't say it, but they said
They
it's a
didn't say it.
possibility. No, they didn't say it because they asked
inferred
Mace
it.
afterward, News Nation did afterwards, and she said, well, I can't say that. And she went on to say how more investigation. But the point is,
go ahead. I had a thought though.
So, well, yes. But the
go
point is that CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, all three of them useless in this regard.
Well, do you think I don't know what it is, but here's an idea, theory. Did they do that because they don't think the general population is truly interested in hearing about that? Like, it's not important.
Well, I think certainly I do believe that people are preoccupied with the election and the aftermath. The people who are happy are interested to see who was selected, and the people who are terrified are interested to see who is selected. So I do think that plays into it. It is the story of the day. There's no question about it. I mean, there's so much happening, whether you approve of it, you don't. It's happening. It's news.
Right. It's news.
But just to sneak it in there above like 5 meals that will save you $20 a week, at least give it some play. Right. And it just, the fact that it has no play shows that people aren't making. I know you put this
up, but we didn't talk about it. What do you think?
Well, I think that news has always had an editorial bias. If you have 10 stories. Did
you get in trouble for that in college?
Yes, I did. And I was right, by the way. But basically, I believe that news is by its nature biased. Because if you have 10 stories, but you can only cover 8, the choices you make of which stories to cover in itself is a bit of a bias. Right. Now, if you apply the journalistic kind of standards that we learned in school, I'm not a journalist, I don't claim to be, but even when I'm talking to people, if I were trying to cover something journalistically, at least the way I was taught, you keep your opinion out of it. It's who, why, what, where.
The 5
and
W's, yeah.
And that's it. That's it. And I think that that's gone by the way because everything's editorial on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, I don't think it's fake. I think it's
selective
their beliefs. Their beliefs. It's whatever whoever's reporting, it's what they believe. That's the news you're getting.
Agree with Katie. I feel like people are nervous about this transition in power, so they probably don't want to rile us up about anything else. But
they didn't report about it either in the July.
Well, that's the thing.
Either. That's the only thing, Katie, that they didn't. They never. The other stations didn't mention it then either.
Well, the funny thing is that last year was my loss of innocence because last year I'm like, surely the station will, the other stations will cover this, CNN and Fox News and MSNBC. I'm like, surely they're going to have something about this because at that point, I think it was Burchett who said,
you were so excited.
He said, there's been a multi-decade cover-up. And I'm like, wow, they're all going to have to cover this. And I turned on one channel and they were telling me how the Democrats were bad. And I turned on another channel and they told me how the Republicans were bad. And it's like the same old stuff.
You found out nothing. You were so sad.
Yeah. D. Hoot, which is a great name, but also very true. As the owner of the station or newspaper goes, so does the news. Just saying.
That's true.
No, it's true.
I believe that.
Oh, yeah. And it has been, it's not a new thing.
No, it's not. I
It
think
goes
it's just
back
more,
to William Randolph Hearst
don't you
in
feel it's just more
newspapers.
pronounced now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like maybe they tried a little more to cover up their biases in the past, but now it's just out in the open.
Yeah. Well,
I guess if you want to get well-rounded, you go to all the stations and listen to everything or read all the papers, and
I
then you
think
can form your own opinion.
I
So
do that
it's,
a lot. You noticed
well,
towards
we
the
both
election,
do.
I kind of bipped and bopped around and took pieces of information. I
Or
wanted
you
to
could do
know
like me, and I just
what
didn't
both
pay
of them.
attention to any of it because, and I did I not? When you would watch things, I'm like, la la la, I don't want to hear about it. I
Yeah.
don't care. And it's
Yeah.
not that I don't care. I'm over hearing about everybody's opinion. Nobody is giving me facts. Just give me facts. I will make
Yeah.
my own opinion.
I'm
So,
with you on that.
and I
Well,
think it's kind of like this.
you know
We
where
need
you can go get,
facts.
you know where you can get the facts, or at
Where can we
least
get the facts, Jim?
the Paranormal Report with Jim and Dar
You'll
Harold.
get the other news. You'll
Yes.
get the news that they don't want you to
Yeah.
know.
There's some confusion, I think, because I used to do the Paranormal Report years ago
You did.
with Clayton, then Micah, and stopped doing it. And we started doing it again. And I'm like, Dar and I have been for the last 2 months doing this show called the Paranormal Report. And people be like, you mean the Paranormal Podcast? I'm like, no, that's not what I mean.
It's
It
the
is
report.
the
The report's
Paranormal
back. It's with
Report.
me.
Yes. Yep.
Oh no.
And no, I think you add a good perspective, and it's something a little bit different. So make sure that you listen to Jim and Dar on the Paranormal Report on Spotify, Apple
it's been
Podcast,
fun.
your favorite audio podcast app. And we may actually end up in the future, doing something very much like this.
Yeah, I would like to do this. I
Yeah.
like interacting with you guys because I don't know. I feel
Well, I think it makes it more fun.
well, and we get other people's opinions, not just ours. I mean, we
Good
do tend to
point.
agree a lot, but there are things we don't agree on. But I mean,
No,
not
too
us.
fantastic. We never fight. Don't you know that? Haha.
Pshaw.
Yeah. But the thing is that we do have a lot of fun with it. We really try to mix it up. I mean, every week we have some UFO stories. We try to have some ghost stories. We try to have some cryptid stories.
And creepy dolls. No.
And this is free. This is not part of our Plus Club because we're doing two different things now. We're doing this, which is absolutely free, the Paranormal Report. Then we're doing a new thing called Behind the Scenes, which is just for our Plus members, where we talk about what's going on at the Spooky Studio. But that's a different thing.
Or the Harold household
Yeah.
completely.
The Paranormal Report is free on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or your favorite podcast app. And eventually, if we do get the video going, we'll get that on YouTube too. But in the meantime, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite audio podcast
I look
app.
like a ghost today.
I thought you looked really nice.
Oh, thank you. But no,
Yeah.
I look really pale. I look sickly.
No, I don't think so.
They made me sick.
I don't know.
Not
So,
giving me my information.
final thoughts on this big extravaganza today.
There were so many other things I could have been doing. I have so much editing to do. So, I'll say this. Okay. It was for my first time. It was very interesting to watch. I don't think I learned much. Very similar. We don't need the government to know it's real. I'm with you. Thank you, Channing. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't learn a lot, but I mean, it was interesting. It was interesting. Yeah. I mean, are we going to watch the Senate in a few weeks then? We probably should.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think
And
we'll find
my
out
thoughts
anything there
are
either.
we moved the
but-
ball slightly. We got a first down, but there's so much more to go.
There'll
So
be lots of penalties coming, so I'm not. They're going to move the ball back, Jim. Don't worry.
well,
We'll see, right? We'll see. Aw,
thank you, Katie. Thank you for that.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all
yes,
for
thank
tuning
you
in.
guys.
This was totally impromptu. I'm like, can we even get this going? Can we get this started? I
well,
was
we thought
fumbling.
about trying to do it while watching it, and
That's too hard
can't
because of the
multitask.
copyright restrictions, and then you can't listen. And so
I was actually going to watch that and do some editing and whatnot, and I'm like, I can't do both. So I joined Jim and we watched it together. But
Yeah.
we couldn't. But yeah, we thought we'd just pop on here and give you our thoughts for what that's worth. But maybe it gives you guys something more to think about or to talk about with people that you know.
Well,
and share.
thank you for tuning in. Check out the Paranormal Report. Stay safe, stay spooky, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.